Hi, this is Dennis with Second Chance Tackle. Today I have the opportunity to service a Shimano Torium, the 14HG, and this reel has always been popular and continues to be popular in the Shimano lineup. It's a nice narrow frame, high speed reel that well, just keeps on fishing. Pretty simple in design, to me relatively easy to service, and well, it just keeps on fishing. This is a star drag reel. We're going to show you how to take this reel apart, how to service it, how to keep it fishing for a long time to come. This reel came from Pete, and Pete is right in my home state of New Jersey, and well, not too far from here for all that matters. But he decided he's going to mail it in, and that's all good. Well, I'm going to start by taking off the exterior pieces. That includes the handle assembly and the star adjuster. And while I do that, I want to encourage you to subscribe to my channel. And if you do subscribe to the channel, please use that notification button. If you do, you'll see all the videos I do. Today we're working on an inshore saltwater reel, one that's appropriate for Great Lakes or deep lakes. And well, tomorrow it might be a freshwater bass reel, and the next day it'll be a very large ocean trolling reel. When I take the pieces of parts off, they go into a parts tray so that I have safekeeping. And whenever you're working on a reel, you should have a plan for what you're going to do with the parts when you remove them. One of which might be keeping track of how you remove them. For example, there was a little washer under the handle here between the handle and the star adjuster. Then you have your star adjuster and you have a spring. So you're going to have to push your star adjuster down in order to engage. So I'm using that star adjuster without the spring now to back off the adjuster nut. And that spring is put there so that it keeps the tension off of the star adjuster, and that way you don't accidentally tighten or loosen that during a fight. You have two flat washers up top and then two belled tension washers underneath. And you need to notice that progression for when it's time to reinstall. Alright, that's all you need to take off at this side. We're going to take off the side plate now, and the side plate has 4 screws. Most of the time I'll use a Phillips head screwdriver, but I just like to use this flat bladed screwdriver just to break the screws. It seems that they're easier if I do it that way. If you're not having any issues with your Phillips head screwdriver, just use that from the start. But again, for me, I don't know if it's hand strength or what it is, but whatever it is, it just seems to me easier to be able to do that first and then come in and finish it with the Phillips head screwdriver. Well, there's 4 screws. As I take them off, I'm putting them into my parts tray. I'm also noticing a couple of things. One of the reasons why it might be a little hard for me is that they've used cool Loctite on the bottom end of these screws, so I guess it is a little bit more difficult to break the initial seal. And well, the other thing I'm noticing is all of these screws are the same size, so being the same size, you don't have to worry about which one you're going to put it back in. And here's an example of that blue Loctite or cool Loctite. Okay. I always encourage folks to take pictures. That way you'll have a view of what it looked like before you started taking it apart. You also have a reference for when it's time to put it back together again. Those 4 are off. We should be able to remove the side cover now. For whatever reason, this always seems to be a little tight. I think it's the way that it mounts onto that back piece there. And the first thing I want to do is remove the sleeve for the anti-reverse clutch. I'm going to clean that off. And well, this reel hasn't been serviced, and well, looks like the greases are probably all dried up. That's your side plate case. I don't need to put that into a parts tray. I do need to take these springs off right away, and I will put those into a parts tray for safekeeping. Next up, we have our main gear assembly. You can pull that off. I'll show you how that goes back together again in a little moment. Then we have a fail-safe, and we also have our pinion gear and yoke. I'm just going to put these on the table for now. This is a fail-safe anti-reverse. You have an automatic or an instant anti-reverse. You also have this anti-reverse click ratchet. Well, I took all of that off because the next thing you want to do is service the spool side before you service the main gears. Take a picture here. There's 4 screws that are holding this back plate on, and that's the only way you can get into the spool. If you look there, you have a solid case on the back side here, so you can't go in that way. The only thing you're looking to do in here is to service the 2 bearings. Also notice the position of these screws. These screws are on the face of this back plate. And well, I say that because at one point I did make a mistake somewhere when servicing one of these reels once. I put the screws into these 4 side plate screw holes. They fit, but you won't get your side plate back on. So if you're having that issue, you know what's going on there. I also noticed I did not remove the jack. Alright, well, I'm living dangerously. Instead of putting these screws into my parts tray, I'll just put them on the table there. Let's remove the jack. We'll put that into the parts tray. Now we can remove the plastic side plate cover. These 2 screws do not come out. As I mentioned, the only thing you're going to do here is make sure it's clean. I'm going to take a little scrubby pad and some rod and reel cleaner while I have this apart. Take the opportunity to clean the inside of the case. You can wipe away any of the salt or film or debris that's been in there. This reel is relatively clean. And, well, we have the bearing in the back. As I mentioned, that's the only thing that's going on back here. You have a click ratchet. You can put a drop of oil on that too. But that's it. And now you have one more bearing that's in the spool. So let's go ahead and oil that. And then we can put this back into the carrier. Watch your braid tags if you are reinstalling line. Those tags tend to get caught in the inner rings, and of course that doesn't work well. And then the last thing I want to do, I believe there's a bearing under here. I don't need to take it out, but I am going to flood that. And then we can take the paper towel, clean off that excess grease that's been hiding under the yoke, and take the assembly and put that back on. Line up your holes, and then go get those 4 screws that we've laid out on my table here. Now again, they go into small holes in the face of the plate. They do not go in those little indentations there. Those indentations are for your side plate cover screws. When I put these on, I like to alternate kind of northeast, southwest, or left, right, up, down, or however you want to call these. These reels have been around. They're very nice reels, very dependable reels, and as we saw in the box, looks like this one was selling for $219 through Tackle World. Not quite sure when that was, but that's the price paid at the time, so that'll give you an idea of the cost of this reel. The reel holds up very well. It's got big gearing and it made with quality components. As a general statement, I am a fan of Shimano reels. I think they do a nice job in design and manufacturing materials chosen. Okay, I'm going to clean up the yoke and the pinion gear, and this kind of says it hasn't been serviced in a while. All of the greases and oils that were in this reel have evaporated. So one of the things you want to do as you're servicing fishing reels is make sure that you clean them, check them to make sure that there's no broken parts, and reassemble. You're going to find a ramp on the yoke that's going to face in, and that's going to face the same direction as the slotted section of your pinion gear, which is going to intersect the spool. Before we can put that piece on, we're going to clean the yoke, put a little bit of grease back where that yoke is going to slide, a little bit on the back, and then we can position the yoke in the carrier, just like that. Next up, we will take our yoke and pinion gear, Mount that in, and as you go down, make sure that this intersects with the spool. You might have to turn this a little bit, but make sure it's in there so that your bottom of your yoke is sitting flush against the base of that side plate. We can put those springs on now, and then pay attention to the drag stack. There's a little bit of grease on here. I'm going to remove that. You can leave that dog in place, but if it comes out like that, just make sure you split the teeth on it, or the legs, one in each direction. Let's bring that over the post. Make sure your dog seats on the post here, and make sure that this post has this square that's notched into it, sitting firmly. First drag washer goes in on the base. It seems to use the undersized drag washers. I'm not sure, but they do it. I guess you can improve the max drag if you can find bigger washers for this. Max drag is a function of surface area. The more surface area you have, the better holding power it's going to have. And well, in an ocean reel, you could probably use a good amount of max drag. Taking our time to grease the main gear, and I'm using a fishing reel grease for that. I'm using Penn Precision Reel Grease. Well, as I put the main gear back on, if you have any questions on this or any part of the reel, just leave those questions in the comment section. I will try to answer them for you. These are Carbon Tex washers. They don't need grease. They've got plenty of grease on there, so I guess they chose to grease them. That's fine. Just wipe off the excess from the metals. This is a 6-drag system. 2 of them have keyed washers. They go high and low. One of them is a big one and the other is a small one. Second drag washer goes in, and then we have what's called the eared washer. The eared washer has 2 points, and those points face down and in the slots of that main gear. Last of the drag washers. Again, those drag washers have plenty of lubrication on them. Lubrication is to keep them from cracking or breaking. It has nothing to do with the slip as much as it does with prevention of breakage. Alright, we have our internal sleeve for the anti-reverse. There are notches on the one side that goes down, and it fits into the notches in that drag stack. Make sure that you are nice and flat and flush here. Oh, that's it, other than a drop of oil onto your trip cam. This is the one thing that breaks in this reel. For whatever reason, this plastic cam and the spring tend to break. That's the weak point in the reel. Bring your yoke pretty much up. Make sure the stud on your free spool release is in the upper position. And we can bring it over and set the side case back in place. What you want to do here is you want to pull your lever and make sure that you are in free spool and hold it. Take the 4 screws that were the side plate screws, and let's get them started. This is where having the parts tray and having your pieces and parts segregated helps an awful lot. You're not looking around on your table to find out where they are. There's 3 more of those. We said they were all the same size, so it doesn't matter what position you put them in. I like to go just like the other one, north, south, east, west, up, down, high, low, or whatever you want to come up with to describe that. I think that keeps equal tension on the case, and that way you don't risk some kind of a jam or some kind of tension build up in it because you've pushed something off to the side. Okay, put this back on. So what have we done so far? We've taken the reel apart, we've cleaned it, we've re-lubricated it, we've shown you how to get access to your spool, and well, just buttoning it up now. So we said before early on that we have these 2 big washers. They're belled. They have a curve in the center, so I put the curve facing up on the first one, down on the second one. And we mentioned that you have 2 flat washers. And then we have the nut, which is going to hold it down. There's your second flat washer. On the nut there's a ring with an indentation that faces up to accept that spring. And make sure you put this nut on even. If you're having any trouble, if you can't do this, then stop. You're probably cross-threading it, and well, that'll be disastrous, so don't do that. Once that nut is on, grab your spring, and take your star adjuster. Now it's got a square in the back side of that. That has to mesh with the square here, so put it over the top, and then push down until you know that it's meshed. How do you know it's meshed? Well, your handle won't fit on if it isn't. Bring your handle back on. Oops, that was an oops. And in my parts tray, there's a little metal washer that goes before the handle. Then the handle. Then the handle nut. This handle nut is an 11mm nut. We're going to do the same thing with this nut cap that we were doing with the other piece, and that is to make sure that it's going on nice and square and evenly. Tighten that down. Make sure your drag is tightened down. You don't want to clamp down on the loose drag. And we can set our tie down clamp. Oh, I almost had it exactly. Very good. And then the last piece I just dropped on the floor. There you go. All right. Fortunately, I have a hard plastic floor underneath me. I clean it, and that way when something drops, it's pretty easy to find, and I would be kidding you if I said nothing ever dropped on it. Things have a tendency to want to run away. There you go. All right. Well, it didn't take that long to do the reel, did it? And what did we learn from that? We learned that it's pretty easy to service the reel and keep it fishing for a long time to come, but, well, you got to do it. If you don't do it, the greases, as you saw here, evaporated. That could lead to grinding in the gears and the metal pieces and parts. That's never good. And, well, the dirt accumulating can be an abrasive, and dirt is going to get into this reel. You have an open side face on each. That's going to cause that to have water seep in on both sides. You do need to clean these up. You do need to make sure that they are continually greased and oiled, and they'll give you well, trouble-free performance for a long time to come. We're in free spool. Let's give it a test. That's a nice casting reel. If you wanted to adjust that spool, you would back this off for faster cast, tighten it down for slower. Let's go into gear. Make sure that it's turning. It turns nice and free and easy. And, well, drags are holding. I'm going to back them off now. I don't want to squeeze out the oils and greases in it. We'll back it off, which is a good practice that you should follow. All right, one more little thing. I'm just going to put a little drop of oil onto the handle knob. And that's it. We're going to call that the service of your Shimano Torium 14 HG. That's how you take it apart, how you service it, and how you keep it fishing for a long time to come. Before I leave, I want to thank our police, fire, safety, and rescue for everything it is that they do, keeping us safe, keeping us healthy, keeping us secure. I want to thank everybody for watching. I hope you're enjoying your time on the water. I hope the fishing is good, and that you continue to keep watching. If you haven't subscribed already, again, please subscribe. And to those of you that have subscribed, thank you. This is Dennis with Second Chance Tackle, wishing everybody a great day.